Hey, how's everybody doing today? We're going to look at one verse out of Proverbs chapter 16, verse 32. It says, "Better to be patient than powerful, better to have self-control than to conquer a city." And I'm really just going to focus on the last part of that verse. Better to have self-control than to conquer a city. You know, we all have every day probably situations that we're in where for some reason something happens and it evokes an emotional response. You know, whether something doesn't turn out the way we thought it would, or there's a surprise, or somebody says something that's hurtful. I mean, whether it's in a relationship, whether it's when we're driving, whether we're coaching a sports team or whatever. And in every one of those situations, we always have a choice. And that choice is to be emotionally disciplined or emotionally reactive. And when we choose to be emotionally disciplined, we all know we could, pretty much say from the get-go that we know that's a better route. And yet too many times I find myself being emotionally reactive instead of being emotionally disciplined. And after it's all over and I get through it, I think, man, I need to do better about controlling that. But here's what I want to ask you. How many times do you think when you're in a peaceful, calm moment, hey, I need to work today or this next week, I'm going to really work on, or I'm going to be at my best, through the power of Christ, to be emotionally disciplined. And I'm not going to allow my emotions to dictate my actions or my words. And I think sometimes the reason why we're not emotionally disciplined is because we don't take that extra step of reminding ourselves and of working towards it. If you look at this verse, here's what it says: that having self-control is a bigger victory than conquering a city. And you'd be like, well, that doesn't make any sense. I mean, you go conquer a city, you're a war hero, maybe you've defended your country or whatever, but there are plenty of people, and we all have abilities where we might be really good at something, but other parts of our life are a wreck. But if you look at self-control, if you look at emotional discipline, there is literally no area of your life where it would not make you better. I mean, seriously. Would being emotionally disciplined, would that make you, I'm not talking about being unemotional. I'm just talking about not being, responding emotionally to whatever happens in our life. Would that not make you a better husband or a better wife? Would that not make you a better father? A better mother? Would that not make you a better friend? If you were a little league soccer coach, baseball, football, basketball, whatever, would being able to control your emotions not make you a better coach? See, in all those different areas in life, would it not make you better at business? If you're in retail, if you're, in the service industry, if you're a contractor, whatever, there's literally nothing that you could tell me that you did that being emotionally disciplined would not help you in. I mean, because that's why that particular discipline is better than being great at one thing. Because we can all be great at one thing, but if we wreck our lives at the rest of it, then it wipes out the one good thing we were good at. But if we can be emotionally disciplined across the board, that is a huge victory. And it really sets us up to be used by God in ways that are really innumerable. And so here's what I want to encourage you to do. Set a time frame. Maybe you pray every day in the morning. God, help me to be in control of my spirit. Help me to be emotionally disciplined today. Pray about it. Or maybe it's for a week at a time. You know what? Could you go one day without responding emotionally? Allowing emotions to make you reactive? I bet you could. And so what if we did that and then we strung several of those together, and then something that became a challenge became a habit? Now, I'd also want to make something clear. Just walking away in the moment is not necessarily maintaining control over our spirit. If all you're doing is saving them all up to where one little thing maybe explodes them all, then you haven't controlled it. You've just kind of put it on the back burner or lit a fuse to explode later. So what I mean by that is being able to overlook an offense, being able to overlook a hurt, statement, or maybe just being able to say, hey, I know you probably didn't mean that, but that bothered me. Or, hey, can we talk about this? But being emotionally disciplined, we could do that maybe for a morning or for an hour or for a day. So why not make that a goal? I mean, if it's really, we believe the Bible's true, right? And if conquering or having self-control, control over our emotions and our spirit is better than conquering a city, then maybe we ought to work out a little bit. We ought to try. And so why not set a goal for ourselves? Hey, you know what? The rest of this day, the rest of this week, whatever you want, whatever time frame you want to set, I'm gonna maintain control over my spirit. I'm not gonna allow my emotions to dictate how I respond or what I say or what I do. When somebody cuts me off on the interstate, I'm gonna maintain control of my spirit. When something happens in a store that I don't like, or somebody doesn't serve me the way, I'm gonna maintain control of my spirit. When my kids say or do something, I may still have to discipline them, but I'm gonna maintain. I'm not gonna do it in anger. I'm gonna maintain control of my spirit. Why don't we work at the things that are really important? And this is something the Bible tells us is not only important, but hugely beneficial. So that's my encouragement to you, is to be self-controlled, and start out by working on controlling your emotions and not being driven, not being reactive in what happens to you. You can't determine all the time what happens to you, but we can choose how we react. Choose to be self-controlled, choose to be emotionally disciplined, and then see how God uses that. So that's my challenge for you today. That is Proverbs 16:32. I'd encourage you to read it, memorize that verse. That can be your way of reminding us every day. Go over that verse and memorize it so that it's with you all day long. Hope you guys have a great week, and hope you see you this Sunday in person or online, and God bless.